PC gaming is booming. The next Xbox is probably going to be much like a PC, and the head of the house of Grand Theft Auto says console gaming is moving towards PC. What does that all mean for console gamers who have long preferred the ease of use of a console? We'll dig into that on Next Gen Console Watch, coming up after these messages. Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch, our show following all the latest gaming hardware. I'm Daemon Hadfield, and as always, I'm joined by Ryan McCaffrey, host of Podcast Unlocked, and Max Scoville, host of Podcast Beyond. And we've talked for years now about how the PC market is where the growth is in the gaming industry, while the console market is largely stagnant, at least for PlayStation and Xbox. PlayStation has not grown its user base since the PS2, and Xbox's struggles to sell hardware since the 360 are well documented. So today we've got a thriving handheld gaming PC market. Valve just announced a new Steam machine for the living room, and all rumors about the next Xbox point to it being very much like a PC. And this week, the boss of Take-Two has said the industry is moving towards PC. CEO Strauss Zelnick told CNBC's Squawk Box that the video game business is trending towards open rather than closed. He continued, but if you define console as the property, not the system, then the notion of a very rich game that you engage in for many hours that you play on a big screen, that's never going away. So let's start there. Max, what do you think he means by defining a console as the property, not the system?
I think it means the property, but also sort of the way you engage with it. But also that's kind of a moot point, because if you look at how PC gaming and video gaming, for lack of a better word, have evolved over time, they've kind of melded together in a lot of ways. You've got PlayStation putting their third-person action games on PC, and you've got, PC hits making their way to console. It's become kind of the same general thing. But I think he's referring to the fact that when you say console gaming, you're thinking sitting on a couch with a controller. There's no keyboard in sight. There's no mouse involved. You're, loading up a bespoke interface that is designed specifically for playing video games. It's not like you turn on a computer that can be used for other things and then use it to load up some games. And yeah, I mean, it is kind of funny that we refer to PC gaming as like a separate thing, when ultimately gaming is all sort of the same, in way of engaging with enjoyable entertainment software. That's just what it is. That said, there are certain types of games that, I feel like are more PC like. For instance, we have MMORPGs that are on console, but that seems like more of a PC based thing. I mean, WoW hasn't made its way to consoles ever. Which is crazy considering how big of a property it is. Ironically, the week that all this is happening, Sony announced 2 first-party PlayStation properties that aren't coming to PlayStation. There's a Ratchet and Clank Arena Battler that's coming to mobile, and there is a Horizon-based MMORPG that's being developed by NCSoft that's presumably coming to PC first and maybe PS5. But again, these are, how you engage with the game varies, and there's no, we've seen Civilization come to console, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, that they can, retool such a mouse-centric experience and make it work with a controller. But yeah, here we are. I mean, look at Baldur's Gate. For 25 years, that's the kind of game that you had. Like a CRPG is a computer RPG. You need a mouse to play it, but with the right interface, it works on a console just fine. You can play it from the comfort of your couch. But to Strauss Zelnick's point, yeah, it's sort of the more casual environment. It's like you're playing it on a big screen. It's got a level of polish to it. I think he's sort of tiptoeing around the sense of AAA gaming, which has a place on PC as well. But you know what he's getting at. It is ironic though that he announced this not alongside any word of GTA 6 coming to PC.
That is kind of a funny detail here. Yeah, everything's moving towards PC, but we're not bringing our next game, which is going to be the biggest game of all time, to PC, or not at launch. They haven't announced the PC version yet. They like to double dip. We can talk about that more in depth in a minute. But Ryan, what's your take on all this? Xbox has been very PC friendly for a while now. The next Xbox is supposed to be basically a gaming PC. Do you agree? Everything's sort of moving in that direction.
Well, yeah, and what's really, I mean, it's I guess it's just accelerating now, because it's actually been heading this way for a very long time. You can go back to really the original Xbox, he says, as the Xbox guy at IGN, which was basically a pretty much off-the-shelf PC components, more or less, in a console box. I guess if the real like nerdy hipster answer, you could even say, well, the Dreamcast ran on Windows CE, so you could take it back even a little further. But yeah, the Xbox started it. The 360 really went all. I mean, that's an x86 based machine. Sony went x86 based, meaning PC based, with the PS4, which is hugely successful generation for them, and now they all are. I mean, they all are just that way, and yeah, certainly Strauss's comments would seem to suggest that Microsoft is on. I guess I won't sit here and call it the right path, quote unquote, but the one that at least the head of one major publisher says the industry is heading in. So I think really now, I mean, Nintendo's going to just Nintendo until the end of time, as long as they keep making money doing it. And, we know that their first party games sell not just millions of copies, but tens of millions of copies. So they're pretty fortified, but Sony, the example Max gave about Horizon Steel Frontiers being a not PlayStation game coming to PC and mobile. It's a PC and mobile MMORPG. Sony is probably going to be the one that has to change what's been working for them. Like Microsoft, what they've been doing hasn't been working, just quite frankly. And there's a billion reasons for that, which we've covered over the years on this show. But Microsoft is now, again, as you said, Daemon, moving in this hybrid PC console direction, and Nintendo is strong enough to keep just doing its Nintendo thing. But yeah, Sony seems like the one that's probably going to have to change their tune a little bit sooner rather than later.
Do you agree with that, Max? Because it really seems like Sony's been doing just fine in spite of the fact that they've really slowed the cadence of their first party releases.
I mean, they've been making PC games, which is pretty outlandish for Sony if you look at their previous track record. The fact that they're taking first party stuff and putting it on PC eventually, or in some cases even having day and date, simultaneous releases is pretty much unheard of if you look at their, how they've behaved in the past. I don't see them opening up. I don't see them making a PlayStation that could also be used as a PC. That just doesn't seem like them. They've gone great lengths to try to sidestep piracy by using proprietary hardware. Infamously, the PlayStation Vita memory cards are frequently more expensive than the Vita itself. They put the memory stick duo on the PSP, and you can hack that thing in a snap. I think they want to avoid that. People are still going to do it, but I still, they want people in their ecosystem. They don't want people, they've got their walled garden. They don't want people tunneling under the hedge and doing their own thing there any more than they can prevent. But yeah, I mean, it is funny because were Sony to sort of break into the PC gaming space, which they're sort of tiptoeing around it. Like they announced a pair of desktop speakers and a new desktop monitor, both of which are, shown off side by side with a PS5, but also next to a PC. And these are, the PlayStation is an entertainment center. It's very much a console for use in the living room in sort of the Strauss Zelnick sense. But, some people do play it on a desk in the same way that some people hook up a PC to their TV and play Steam in big picture mode. But I mean, Sony, they make hardware. If they're making desktop speakers and they're making monitors, would they ever make a PC? They've made PCs in the past. It would be not unheard of for them to go, hey, we're bringing back the Sony Vaio. It's the PlayStation edition. So play all your PlayStation games there. Again, that might not happen. One little weird detail is a graphic popped up floating around somewhere. I wasn't sure exactly where it was, but it was a cross-buy icon for PlayStation games, suggesting that maybe if you buy a first-party game on PS5, you could play it on PC as well, which seems, again, magnanimous. It seems like a very out of character move for Sony, and they're in a weird spot where they've got the console market cornered. But if the console market is changing, is that going to remain the case? Do they want to try to chase after it, or just kind of hold down the fort where they are?
Yeah. So the next generation is sort of being set up to have the three main console manufacturers to be doing very different things. If we've got this next Xbox that's more like a PC, you can use it as a traditional Xbox, but you can also back out to Windows and load up Steam, load up good old games, load up the Epic Game Store. Ryan, last week after the announcement of the Steam Machine, Valve's new Steam Machine, Phil Spencer publicly congratulated Valve on the announcement. But behind the scenes, do you think Xbox is annoyed at this at all, that they're going to be beaten to the market with this sort of a very similar idea for a home console?
Well, I'm sure they saw it coming. I don't think it was any sort of surprise. You know, these guys all know each other. They know what they're
right
all
down the
up
road
to,
from each other.
But yeah, no, I do think it. We talked about this on Unlocked last week. In fact, that yeah, I think the Steam machine. It is a, I don't know if threat's the right word, but it is another major competitor that Microsoft will need to contend with. Like as you were saying, Damon, they were seemingly carving out their own kind of niche as this hybrid console PC, but now Valve's kind of doing the same thing, and people already love Steam. They don't love the Windows Store, and the love for Xbox has been unfortunately trending downward as a brand over the last couple of generations here. So, you know, Valve has the advantage of being able to utilize not only the entire Steam library that pretty much any gamer has, you know, it's just how big is your Steam library? It's not do you have one, it's how many games are in it. But then they also have decades of almost unvarnished goodwill that they have that going for them too. So, you know, we don't know the price yet of the Steam machine. We also don't know the price yet of the next gen Xbox, obviously, since it hasn't even been officially announced, except for that comment we talked about on this show in the last several weeks about Sarah Bond calling it a, quote, very premium pricing situation. So it's all still up in the air, at least as far as us sitting here talking about it. But I am happy as a gamer and as a person lucky enough to get to cover this stuff for a living, that the big three are all doing different stuff this time. And it's not just Nintendo doing Nintendo and then Sony and Microsoft trying to punch each other in the face. I think it's beneficial for everybody that they're all kind of doing something unique, and they each offer something a little different that the other doesn't.
Yeah, it's just also been pretty wild over the last couple decades how PC has become so mainstream, whereas PC gaming in the 90s and the early 2000s was pretty niche, and whereas you know, in home console gaming on a Nintendo or a PlayStation was considered the mainstream way to play games. But viewers, listeners want to know, are you a big PC gamer? Do you game on a PC currently? Or, you know, you can be building a gaming PC, or maybe just playing a handheld like a Steam Deck like I do, or maybe nope, you're happy just being a console gamer, want to just turn on your console, be immediately playing your game, not messing with drivers or any sort of that nonsense. You can vote in our poll the day this episode goes live on IGN.com. We'll share the results with you next episode, just like we can. We got actually a couple of polls to catch up with here. We were talking about GTA 6. What do you think of the GTA 6 delay? And nearly 67% of you were just fine with it. Said you can wait. Rockstar can take as much time as they need. And then also in the trio of Steam announcements that came last week, Steam Machine, Steam Frame, the new Steam controller. Which are you most interested in? Unsurprisingly, over 70% picked the Steam Machine, which I would count myself interested in that too. Ryan, Max, you interested in a Steam Machine? Personally, I've never been a big PC gamer, never made a gaming PC. I've always liked the idea of a PC console that I can just put under my TV, turn on, and start playing. Ryan, what do you think?
I have the great privilege of
you have
currently doing this broadcast on a pretty new gaming PC. I had mine was from 2020, the last time I'd put together a new PC or done any real significant upgrade. So at the beginning of this year, when it looked like tariffs were going to come in and affect the prices of PC gaming components, I was able to budget something and put something together. So I'm lucky that I'm pretty set for a while on the PC gaming front. But yeah, if I weren't, the Steam Machine would genuinely be of serious interest, because you know, they're going to do the whole Steam Machine verified thing with games the way they do with deck verified games now. It's you know, again, there's a lot of reason to be optimistic about what the Steam Machine is going to be and how it's going to allow you to play games.
Max, how about you?
I'm kind of right between the two of you there. I love the idea of getting to do PC games on the comfort of my own couch without having to deal with, you know, buying a new rig and putting it together. You know, I cut my teeth playing PC games. There's a, you know, bunch of old stuff that I love on there, and it's always like a drag. Like, I just actually was looking up, like, can you play Half-Life 2 on any current console? And it's like, if you have the orange box for 360, it's backwards compatible, but you can't buy it on the Xbox marketplace, which is such a drag. But Yeah, I'm the more I think about the Steam Machine, the more excited I am, because I love the Steam Deck. I think it's really cool. I think it is just too big to be effective as a traveling device. Like I think but the Switch is a bit smaller and it's a bit easier to fit into a backpack when you're going someplace. But yeah, the fact that they've basically, tested their whole Steam Deck verified library on there, and they can kind of port a lot of that over to the experience on the Steam Machine. That's really appealing. And again, like I love the sort of the console experience of sitting on a couch with a controller. And if you pair that with the fact that I have a bunch of Steam games in my library, even though I don't really play on PC, and the fact that they're regularly on super cheap, dirt cheap sale, that's awesome. And also there's so many cool, weird indie games that come to PC first, and they, they're on there for years before they make their way to console. So yeah.
I'm into it. Okay, viewers, listeners, if you're looking for something new to play and a way to give back, head over to Humble and grab 8 amazing games for just $14.99, including Total War, Warhammer 3, Another Crab's Treasure, No More Heroes 3, Etrian Odyssey HD, Pharaoh: A New Age, Synergy, Spin Hero, and Paleo Pines. Every purchase supports No Kid Hungry, helping provide meals to students in need across the country. And don't miss our special holiday offer. Get an annual subscription for $124.99. That's down from $154.99 when you use the code HOLIDAY25IGN. Available now through December 1st. Head to humble.com and start playing today. And that's our show. Thank you to both Max and Ryan for joining me today. Thank you to everyone working behind the scenes to make this episode possible. My name is Daemon. We'll be back next week with more on the... Actually, we won't be back next week. We're taking next week off. Thanksgiving holiday here in the U.S. We'll be back in 2 weeks to talk more about the latest in gaming hardware, and we'll see you then. This episode of Next Gen Console Watch was produced by myself, Damon Hadfield, and Jobert Atienza. Technical direction is by Jobert Atienza, with technical production by Marian Franzen and Amir Rakib. Audio engineering is handled by Amir Rakib. Post-production editing is by Jobert Atienza, and graphic design is by Justin Vachon. Next Gen Console Watch is an IGN production and part of the Geek Media Network.